I want to call the meeting to order. It's September 20th, 2021, 7 p.m. It's a meeting of the RTM Education Committee, a regular meeting. So we have called the meeting to order, and we have provided an opportunity for public comment at the beginning of the meeting and at the end. Is there anyone who wants to participate in public comment? I don't see any hands. Do you see any hands, Meg?
No, I don't.
I did see that Wadi Platt has come in.
Yeah, I saw that.
Great. Okay. All right. So let's get started then. The next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of May 3rd and June 14th. The minutes are online. So could we have a motion to approve the May 3rd minutes? Okay, Carolina. And a second? That's Teresa. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Is there anyone opposed? Okay. I think we're supposed to do a roll call. I guess that includes minutes too. So it looks as though Carolina, Liza, Holly, Meg, Teresa, Karen McNichol, Ed, Curtis, me, Nick, Tara, Ann Reed, Wadi Platt, all voted yes. Is that right? Okay. And no
Yes.
one voted no. Did anyone abstain? Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing for the minutes of June 14th. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes? Wadi and Ann, seconds. All right. Again, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. So let the record show that Carolina, Liza, Holly, Meg, Teresa, Karen, Ed, Curtis, me, Nick, Tara, Ann Reed, and Wadi all voted yes. And then
So did Barbara.
okay,
So did Barbara Thorne.
you're caller number 2. Is that
I
right?
just got in. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
I
So
guess.
Barbara is
Just
caller 2. Okay. So that was unanimous, and Barbara Thorne should be added to the list of people who voted yes. And were there any abstentions? Okay. All right. So let's get on with the rest of the meeting. The next thing on the agenda is to discuss and act on approval of the formation of the school building committee or committees and the approval of the 3 building committee charges. And I invited Dr. Adley and Duke Deneen to the meeting so that they could explain a little bit about the charges for the 3 elementary schools renovations at Royal, Hindley, and Holmes. The Board of Selectmen approved this on August 16th, and the Board of Ed, I believe, approved it earlier in June. So I guess the best thing to do would be to start with Duke and Dr. Adley or to see what you would like to tell us about the charge to the building committee to renovate the 3 schools.
Sure, I'll kick it off, Clara. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good to see everyone. Hopefully someday we'll be back in person, but it's good to connect with you as we've kicked off the new school year. So, Clara, I'm not sure. There should actually be, I think part of the process is 3 building charges. Part of it has to do with the way the state wants to set up the projects and the way we have to go through the process to apply for grants. So we were instructed by the state, and I believe the first selectman did the same, in that a charge was approved for each building, and then we are having 1 building committee for all 3 of the renovations. So I'm not sure if you have that organized that way, but that's the way. After working with the state, they're in agreement that based on the reservations and the scope of the projects, that 1 building committee will work, but they will set them up as 3 separate projects in the state. We will also apply to the state from a grant perspective for 3 different grants. I think in order to keep it clean and consistent that way, when the time comes, we'll come to the RTM. We'll discuss with this group and Jack's group ahead of time that there'll be 3 requests for the dollars associated with each particular building. So okay. I'll pause there. I'll see if Dr. Adley wants to add anything, and then of course we'll see what kind of questions y'all have.
No, Mr. Chairman, I think you got it there. And that's nice to see everybody here. The projects themselves essentially take care of the portables, renovate some of the libraries, and some of the classroom spaces, just to right size a couple of those. So in that in that sense, it's fairly confined, but it will serve the kids and the community for years to come. And as the chairman said, the resolution just allows us to format or to establish the committee, allows me to submit to the state, and allows us to hire an architect. It does a few other things, but those are the main things, that the reason for the resolution.
And the goal is to remove the portables.
Well, the goal, yeah, certainly one of the things early on in the process was identification of removing the portables, and also some of the spaces, for instance, the libraries need to be completely renovated, and a couple of other classroom spaces. But primarily the impetus was to remove the portables up front, yes.
And the renovations at each school aren't exactly alike. I mean, I believe I read that Holmes, you're not going to do the library, is that right? But at the other two schools you are. Are there any other kind of big differences among the schools that you would like to point out?
For the most part, that's right, Clara. The Holmes library is a big enough library and a big enough space. It will be renovated to some degree, but the space itself is different. And you perhaps have a few more classroom spaces in Royal that are will be right sized, but for the most part, it's the same type. They're the same type of projects.
Okay. And is the ed specs themselves that you discussed earlier in the spring, are they online if somebody wanted to delve into that?
Yes, they would be. They are probably attached to the actual meetings that were where we discussed the educational specifications. So I'd probably have to look and see which meeting that was specific for you, but they are definitely posted, yes.
Okay. Okay, so questions for Dr. Adley and Duke Deneen. Anybody have questions? No? I had a question. Okay, Nick Branca.
Yeah, hi. I just had a question just in terms of, because it's three schools in sort of different, conditions as of now. And, I'm assuming that the goal for all three of them is to get to sort of an equal level of, sort of ability to deliver a great educational product. And so, should the public, when they look at it, or should, our constituents expect that, the spend on each three is going to be the same in terms of dollars, or is it more, the outcome in September 2025 is going to be equivalent and all three schools are going to, be at a similar level?
Well, I think go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dr. Adley.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I think great question. Look, the good news is, and I've been doing this for over 8 years now, going back to the original master plan, we continue to get feedback from the original master plan architect and the current Northeast Collaborative that we're working with, that, our buildings are in really good condition for the age of our buildings. Clearly, that wasn't the case with Ox Ridge. So the goal here was to remove the portables. The goal was to look at educational space, to incorporate the library redesign. And then as we consolidated some programs like ELP into Ox Ridge, it freed up ELP classrooms at these schools. So we looked at what was needed in terms of additional renovations. So, the goal is to continue, and the focus very much is on the educational spaces for these schools. There's some additional classrooms being built. There's some music classrooms being built along with the library redesign. So the dollar amounts, I don't have them in front of me. The dollar amounts do vary between each school based on what we're doing. But all schools, we always continue to look at, the equity in schools. It's not really possible for each school to be exactly the same. Ox Ridge will be a new, beautiful school, much like Tokenique was over 10 years ago. But, the good news is the town and through the facilities committee, the Board of Ed, and through the RTM has continued to invest in our school buildings. So we're excited, and the removing of the portables is just long overdue.
Other questions? I wondered about, will they all be air conditioned after the renovation?
They are air conditioned now. That's part of the specs of the new renovations.
Okay. And are there any renovations, changes with the heating system? I seem to remember, I think it was Royal that had some difficulties with the heating system in the cafeteria area. Is that, I mean, are those kinds of things addressed by this renovation as well?
What the administration did and what Mike Lynch did was look out over the next 5+ years. And part of this was anything that we were going to do to those schools had to align with some of the capital projects that were being done over the next bunch of years. So anything
Okay.
to do with that was incorporated into the renovations.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us, Dr. Adley or Mr. Deneen?
No, I think this has been vetted at several meetings and at a public discussion also. So, and the information's been out there for quite a while. I see some familiar faces on the phone here that have been part of the process with us. The facilities team did a great job. The administration did a great job organizing this. So we're excited to start this project. Thank you.
Yep, tremendously excited about it, Clara. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think the last time that those three schools were renovated was in 1996. So it was a long time ago. And I think that they've changed, the population has changed a lot since then. And so have the expectations of parents. So we're excited about this. All right. So based on what you have told me, everyone, are you ready to vote, everybody? Okay.
Sure.
So can I have a motion for Hindley School to approve the charge of responsibilities to the Hindley School Building Committee?
I'll move that, Clara.
Ann and Teresa? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anyone
Yeah.
opposed?
I'm in favor.
Okay, so according to our rules, we have to do a roll call. So Carolina, Liza, Holly, Meg, Teresa, Karen McNichol, Ed Washek, Curtis, me, Nick, Sarah, Ann Reed, Waddy, and Barbara Thorne all voted yes. Is that right?
Right.
Yes.
Did I leave anybody out? Is there anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Next, we'd like to have a motion to approve the charge of responsibilities to the 2021 Homes Building Committee. Can I have a motion? Carolina and Tara. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Think that's, is there anyone opposed? All right, and again, Carolina, Liza, Holly, Meg, Teresa, Karen McNichol, Ed Washeka, Curtis, me, Nick Bronca, Tara, Ann Reed, Waddy, and Barbara Thorne all voted yes. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
right.
and no one was opposed. Were there any abstentions? Okay. And finally, we'd like to have a motion for the charge of responsibilities to the 2021 Royal School Building Committee. Can I have a motion? Okay, who has another turn? Tara and Ann Reed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there anyone opposed? Okay, so again, Carolina, Liza, Holly, Meg, Teresa, Karen, Ed, Curtis, me, Nick, Tara, Ann Reed, Waddy, and Barbara Thorne all voted yes. No one voted no. Were there any abstentions? Okay, no abstentions. All right. Does that take care of all of the charges and all of the aspects of the school building committee? Okay, good. All right, next on the agenda, we can move on, I think. The next thing on the agenda is to discuss and act on the approval of funds for for the replacement of vehicles damaged due to the recent storm. Duke and Dr. Adley, would you like to give us a little bit of a summary about that? I think we've all seen some of the information about the damage done by flooding all over town. So I guess the Board of Ed was not exempt from having trouble with the flooding as well. So tell us what happened.
Thank you, Clara. So as I don't know if everyone knows, but we are a tenant in the Public Works garage, mostly on the
Yes.
lower level. So this damage was caused by Storm Elsa back on July 9th. There was significant flooding at the Ledge Road garage. 3 vehicles were submerged underwater, resulting in a Kerma. Totaling those 2 vehicles, one was a 2013 truck, a 2011 truck, and a 2017 truck. So the challenge is we're down 3 vehicles as we go into winter weather and plow season. I will tell you, Mike Lynch and his team, as always, have stepped up to the plate. Got schools open. Some of these folks, using their own vehicles, which is much appreciated. Mike would like to get an order in as soon as possible. Right now, even getting an order in now, delivery is not guaranteed much before January. If we wait any longer, it'll be pushed out even further. So he does have bids out and has firmed up bids that are good through October 18th. That is for $147,862. There will be insurance reimbursement of $82,241. In speaking with Jen and the Board of Finance, the appropriation request is for the full gross amount of the replacement vehicles. And then once Kerma settles up and the insurance check comes in, I guess Jen Charnowski has it set up to offset the gross amount that Mike needs to go out and place the bid on the trucks to get the process started. So
Sounds good.
that's the update on that.
Thank you.
Sure.
I understand that some of the workers are using their own trucks in the interim. Is that right? I thought I saw that on the F&B meeting. Is that true?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, that sounds like a good solution. Are there any questions for Duke and Dr. Adley? Teresa?
So I guess my question would be, how is this going to impact this year's budget? Will we need to be doing any kind of transfers to reimburse employees who are using their own trucks? And if I remember correctly from the meeting on Tuesday, Mike is also talking about potentially having to hire people to do the snow plowing, because we may not be able to, depending on what kind of winter we have, we may not be able to do all the snow plowing. So and then I guess my third question would be, with the trucks, are they all going to be brand new, or are we looking at any used trucks as well? Just because of the replacement cycle, just wondering about that.
So I've talked to the Board of Finance. They're not too concerned about the replacement cycle. It is what it is, unfortunately, with the situation like this. And I think Mike and his team do a great job with getting as many years as possible out of these trucks. So that's something they'll continue to do. No, the trucks will be new. The used truck market is not there either, and those prices are incredibly inflated also because of the demand for equipment. So the vehicles will be new. Dr. Adley, I don't know what Mr. Lynch is doing on the personal use of vehicles. And Teresa, yes, Mike will get us more information. Hopefully we'll have a light winter to start till we get these vehicles, but he does have lined up a potential contractor to help us. I believe he said the other night with the older vehicles that he still has in service that are also plow ready, he does have 12 plows and the 12 crew available with our existing equipment, but is also preparing to have backup. So Dr. Adley, I don't know about any reimbursement on personal usage of the cars, the vehicles.
Well, the actual, if we have to go out for a contractor, so that would impact, if it plays out where we need some contractual help, then that would play out. The appropriation is obviously from capital, so that's a different bucket, so to speak. Richard, you would know if there's any submission for any reimbursement of use or use of trucks or stuff. I'm not aware of that at the moment.
There have not been any reimbursement requests yet. If we do have to use an outside contractor for snow removal, we would have to bring a transfer to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding the truck situation? Okay, so I think we must be ready to vote then. Could we have a motion to approve the funds for the replacement of vehicles damaged during the recent storm? The amount is $147,862.
I would move that.
Okay, Barbara and Nick, all those in favor?
Yes.
Okay, I guess we'll do our roll call again. Is anybody opposed? Okay, so Carolina, Liza, Holly, Meg, Teresa, Karen, Ed, Curtis, me, Nick, Tara, Ann Reed, Waddy, and Barbara Thorne all voted yes. No one voted no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. The next thing on the agenda is we wondered if we would get an update on the first few weeks of school. Oftentimes the Education Committee doesn't work as much with the budget at this point in the year, and we'd just like to have some idea of perhaps the COVID situation or any other aspects of the first few weeks of school that you'd like to share with us. Mr. Deneen and Dr. Adley.
Sure. Thank you, Clara. Well, I think Alan will back me up and he'll fill in. I'll just touch base at a high level. I think we had a great opening of school. As always, incredible excitement and energy. For those of you that don't tune in regularly to a Board of Ed meeting, the mask conversation comes up at every board meeting. We are under a mask mandate by the governor's executive order. That mandate expires on September 30th. So our students, staff, and teachers started the school year with masks on, and they continue to wear masks. Dr. Adley gives us regular updates if anything changes, and as we get closer to the end of September, hopefully we'll hear something at the state level, whether that executive order will be extended or whether anything around that executive order will change. I think, as most of you know, the board, in discussion with the administration, sent a letter in August up to the state asking for more local control in conjunction with our health officials, much like we did last year. Dr. Adley working with our local health officials, making decisions around school being remote, in-person, or hybrid. So, we sent our letter up there, but have not heard anything back specific to that. But we'll continue to get updates from the state, and Dr. Adley will apprise the board and the community. I personally had the opportunity to kick off a meeting right before school started with all the new teachers and staff, principals and assistant principals, over 40 new hires. I think we're past that now, as we had a couple of people leave right when school opened. So we're probably over 50 in terms of new staff. Also starting were our 2 new teachers in residence. So it was an exciting meeting. Dr. Adley and his team had them at Tokenique School for an all-day session learning about the district, although many of them had been in the district and in their new schools. I will tell you there's just a great energy about school opening, but there was also a great energy with these folks wanting to join the Darien district. So I think that was very exciting. I also got to attend, along with our first select person, Jamie Stevenson, the convocation right before school opened. And again, the high school was packed with staff and teachers. And Dr. Adley gave a great overview and presentation. We actually had the chorus group and also a scene from the most recent play, The Wizard of Oz, to kick it off. There was a lot of energy, and it was a great kickoff for the entire school team and the school year. So that was exciting. Real quickly on enrollment. Enrollment is up by 61 students, primarily at Ox Ridge, which is up 44 students. Anyone that's in real estate or a broker out there, clearly they are looking at the Ox Ridge district in terms of real estate and for the new school that's on its way. So that is exciting. Luke Forshaw, the principal, and his team up there are doing an incredible job. So with those new students, overall enrollment, we actually opened the school year with 4,655 students. That's a positive 51 students. We've got about 2,121 students in K through 5, almost 1,100 in middle school, and a little over 1,400 in the high school. So that's exciting. We continue to be a district where people are interested in coming, as evidenced by the real estate market. The other update over the last couple of weeks, and Rich will go in a few more details on this, and of course we're look forward to any questions. We ended the fiscal year 2021 with total expenditures of $102,913,878,000, after an adjusted budget of $104,284,508. So we discussed at the last board meeting, $1,370,630 will be returned to the town based on the year-end financials, and Rich can go into a few more details on that shortly. We also got a great update from Mr. Lynch on summer projects. As you know, many facilities projects go on during the summer. The security system is pretty much complete in all the school buildings. It will be fully operational by late September. Our current system remains in place and is fully operational. Some updates to the high school in terms of the heating system. Some work being done on the cross-country trail to make it more accessible and repair store damage. And also some work being done by Chartwell, our vendor, in terms of mechanicals up at the high school cafeteria. Carpeting was an issue in terms of capital improvements. So carpeting at the high school in Middlesex was delayed. Again, a lot to do with COVID. Costs were more than double, and the product was not available. So that will come back next year. We'll continue to monitor that. The new roof's been installed at Henley, new compressors, new clock systems. Holmes, the new roof has been installed. Some ongoing work going on there, which is probably complete. Skylight is back ordered, due to arrive in mid-September. Royal, the architect, is working on the design for the new roof. Clock system was also installed there. And at Tokenique, blacktop and retaining walls were done in terms of work at Tokenique. And recently, the front half of the parking lot at central office was paved. So as always, Mr. Lynch and his team doing a lot of work. So I will pause there. I'll turn it over to Dr. Adley. You want to add about the excitement of a new school year?
We haven't even had a full week of school yet. When you think about it, we've had this is the first week. This is the first week where I have a full week of school. But in many ways, it feels we've been back for time. But given the transition that our students made, our community made, our families made, I just don't want to underestimate the really positive start to the school year that we have had. There's excitement, passion, as the chairman has described, across the district. Even though our school was back in person before, some of our children were not, and some of our children have been out for some time. So meeting the social and emotional needs of all our kids was important to us this year. And our staff has certainly stepped up to that challenge. And it was just wonderful to welcome back our students, and they were all excited to be back. We've worked through a couple of things. For instance, busing issues. I don't know if you know, there's a shortage of bus drivers really across the state of Connecticut, and some school districts have been were unable to open in time. We're very fortunate with First Student and the management that they actually do have in terms of what they try and do to service Darien as best as they possibly can. So we were fortunate in that regard. We still had to sort of make some accommodations for some athletics in the afternoons in terms of the busing schedule, which we've done. I appreciate the parents' flexibility on that as things sort of settle down. Buses in general around the town it always the first day of buses roll, there's just a change in dynamics. Parents have been very flexible as we have worked through, a couple of bus issues and around bus 25, bus 5 area. It takes a wee bit of time for those things to settle. I will say one of the things is it's particularly a healthy start to school year. Our high vaccination rate in town here, over 90% and so on, has been really instrumental in keeping our kids in schools as much as possible. The number of cases in schools have been a couple each week, a wee bit more this week, this past week. But it's been relatively a very healthy start, and that's one of the most important things to say. So we're certainly up and running. There's certainly issues that have come up for discussion, as they always do. One on the curriculum, as I know you know. But we've really had a very positive start to the school year, and that's attributable to everybody in town, to our staff, and to our families, and most of all to our kids. Rich,
Dr. Adley, thank you. Rich, do you want to give a quick update, maybe get into a little more of the detail on the end of year budget?
Sure. So as Duke mentioned, we did end up with a positive balance of 1.37 million. It primarily came from additional excess cost money, which was about $375,000 over budget. We did receive 100% of the payments by the beginning of June for a reimbursement rate of 80.3%. We had a couple of resignations for administrators in the curriculum office that weren't filled last school year. That saved about $100,000. Transportation saved about $250,000, and that was primarily due to hybrid and remote schedules, less athletic transportation because of less sub-varsity games, and then some out-of-district transportation savings because those locations were also either hybrid or remote. Legal fees were down, and then finally, COVID, we actually had about $100,000 less than anticipated. We did cancel the weekend cleaning contract in May, and then we had a couple of LPNs that resigned, and based on the trajectory of quarantines and things like that, Alicia didn't feel the need to backfill those positions after those resignations, and so those really accumulated to about that $1.3 million.
Can I just ask you, did you say that the excess cost was reimbursed at 83%? Or did you say it was at, huh?
80.31%.
But you did not mean it was reimbursed 100%. You said you got 100% of the payments.
We got 100%. We're owed 2 payments over the course of the year. By the June report, we received both of those payments, and the reimbursement rate was correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Clara, Rich, yeah. you can add to this. I think the other thing to make clear is, a lot of transfers. Rich did an incredible job tracking specific COVID expenses. We did work with the town and did get $1.7 million special appropriation, which was taken down there the fiscal year. And Rich, I don't know, during the finance committee meeting, one member made a good point of, between all the transfers and the appropriations, we were only about 400,000 off in our budget from a net number.
Correct. So it would have been about a little over $400,000 deficit without the special appropriation.
Okay. Good.
Good. Any questions for Rich, Dr. Adley, or Duke Deneen?
Yeah, it's Ed. Sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Ed. I'm sorry. Ed Washeka?
Ed, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Thanks for Dr. Adley. On the last board meeting, there were all those sort of public comment questions, and I guess and Tara had sent around that assignment that had generated so much concern. I think both my kids had done that same quiz, and I guess I was just trying to understand what had happened that was different this year that had caused such a ruckus, and what steps were being taken to try to prevent that from happening again.
So the curriculum, this particular class for those particular resources, so there is actually the written curriculum, and then there's some selected resources that we depend on teachers to actually develop and use and implement their professional expertise. That's why our district is known for the quality of education that we provide our kids, that level of professionalism and expertise that our teachers actually have. So we depend on that as part of the particular process. These particular resources were also used for some years before. So whether or not they had the attention at that particular time, I'm not quite sure why back then it didn't have the attention, but it also there was also things that were spoken at that meeting about things that perhaps happened in the classroom that combined that in terms of what the kids were asked to do, or what was said by kids or not said by kids. I can't get into all of those details because some of them are correct, some of them aren't correct. But perhaps it was a combination of being noticed at some point along the way. I mean, that's one of the things, and the discussion that either children had or perhaps families had, which we would like them to have, by the way, at the kitchen table about what's happening during the school day. So how that came up in those particular conversations, and then there's a chain of sort of communication that we go through, parents, and I appreciate the parents who do go through that when they have particular concerns, and that's that chain of communication is sort of delineated on the website and so on. But there's certain processes that they go through, and I appreciate that some families have. And we welcome a discussion on curriculum. That's a healthy thing. I appreciate the fact that it's done in good spirit, and I think we can have a reflective professional dialogue. What I don't want is sort of it's to detract from what is all the good work that's going on, and so on and so forth. But if there's sincere, respectful concerns about the curriculum, then we'll answer those, and we'll try and find a form to do that. We also have built in, the board has asked, actually, that the board asked last summer, could we build in opportunities, additional opportunities to look at curriculum and do presentations on curriculum, having curriculum discussions. And it just so happened that the first one was last week, where we did our curriculum director, Christopher Tramberg, did an update on curriculum, an update on diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of the board process. And we'll continue to do that and find those opportunities. And also to involve discussions.
Thank you.
Okay, I think, was Wadi next? Did you have your hand up, Wadi?
Yeah, I did. I was just curious. I think I heard that 61 new students were in. How many people leave? Because I know a lot of people go to prep school and everything else. So that 61, is that a kind of a normal year, or is it way above because of COVID?
Well,
The net.
Sorry,
go ahead, Alan.
No, you're okay.
No, the net number is 51 after a decrease in some of the other Middlesex and the high school. So 51 new students entered. So Alan, I'll let you fill in from there.
No, there's just about 10 students at the below projection, but there is a model as part of the enrollment model. It takes into account the transition between 8th and 9th grade in particular, and also particularly kindergarten, which is the hardest one to project.
Teresa, did you have a question? You might be mute. I think you're mute.
Okay, sorry about that. Otherwise, unless you want to hear my dog and my son. Going back to the curriculum, I mean, like Ed, both my kids have done that survey in the past with never a problem. In fact, my daughter did come in and tell me that they discussed their results in class, and it was simply a discussion. But if you look at the curriculum for 11th grade American Studies, which is on the district website, the very first unit talks about media bias and understanding media bias and being able to critically think while looking at it. And it's all part of a preparation for the kids for when they are looking at different historical events or even current events, to look at both sides. And I can tell you firsthand, because my son often asks me to look at what he's written, because I actually have a graduate degree in history. And he will often tell me how every single essay they write in those classes has to argue both sides. So whenever they do anything, they write it from both sides, from both points of view, because that's unfortunate. History is not just facts. History is the interpretation of those facts. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Thank you. I was wondering, when I was looking online at the curriculum documents, do parents know that the curriculum documents are online? Do they know how to get to that site easily? Because a lot of people talked about that, you know, they didn't know, it wasn't transparent. Is it possible that they don't know about this part of the website?
Well, that's plausible, Clara, and it's certainly incumbent upon us to remind people of where they can go to access the documents. So that is where they are housed. So a reminder to the community is always useful. I don't blame people for not being able to follow every all the track the whole every time, but that is where they are. That is where they're hosted. So there's not the transparency issue is like we are being transparent. There's nothing that we wouldn't be transparent about the curriculum.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that I found it a wealth of information, and I wanted to make sure everybody else knows it. Tara, did you have a question?
Well, I do have a question about that because the other night, Chris Tramberg mentioned that there are so many materials, it's not possible to have them all up and available to parents. So I'm not sure what's correct. Are they available, or is there too many that they aren't available?
That's a good question, Tara. The curriculum that's available up there is the framework or the standards or the essential questions or the essential topics. But behind that, there are resources and selections that teachers make that aren't listed there. That is part of the process, the organic process also. So behind there are other documents and other resources that are used. So you won't see everything there, but you'll see the framework, the essential questions that really the board oversees in many ways, the level the board does.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Adley or Mr. Deneen? Megan.
Hey, just so you know, Tara missed all of that because she blacked out and had to come back in. So
Okay.
I just wanted to let everybody know.
Okay,
Tara,
so apparently, Tara, you had a technical difficulty, so could
Yes,
Dr. Adley repeat what he said?
Can you hear me, Tara?
Maybe a little quicker.
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good grief.
Yeah, so you are correct. Behind the website, there are other resources and teaching resources that teachers select on the website are the main framework, the main standards for the course, the main objectives, essential questions, and topics for the course. For the most part, that's the structure of it. Behind that, we do depend on teachers working together collaboratively in the design of the actual classroom lessons themselves, for which they have an abundance of resources to use, everything from books in their classroom to resources of online media, so on and so forth, first, primary documents and so on. You won't see everything there. It's just literally impossible to put everything there, but you're seeing the main structure and framework of the course.
Okay, did you have another question, Tara?
I do. So therefore, those documents that teachers bring in, there is no oversight on those whatsoever, correct? It's left up to them to bring things in.
No, not left up to them to bring things in. A lot of that is overseen by the department chairs, who they themselves are administrators. I mean, the idea that the whole idea of critical thinking, which is part of the strategic plan, that's what we want our kids to do. It's not mutually exclusive from everybody has a free for all in terms of those are not mutually exclusive ideas. There's a series of balance and checks along the way, but we do depend on the professional expertise. That's why these people do what they do. That's what they're trained in doing. That's what their training has all been about. The educational training as part of their master's degrees and doctorate degrees and everything else that they have. That's part of what they do. That's why they do what they do, and that's why they're so good at what they do. So but it doesn't mean to say it's like anybody can do if they want to do. That's not true either.
Okay,
Right.
let's let Meg had a question, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say one thing on this because I realize I'm probably beating a dead horse on this. And I apologize if you're oversaturated, Dr. Idley, with this discussion, but just give me 2 seconds on this one. I also listened to that Board of Ed meeting on Tuesday, and it was painful, but I did understand what a lot of the parents were saying but I also appreciate what you're saying in terms of giving teachers some latitude to bring in different resources to class. My only concern is, in 2012, you could declare yourself as a Republican and no one's going to accuse you of being a racist or anti-climate preservation or anything of that sort. Whereas in this day and age, it is extremely polarizing just to talk about what your political leanings are, what your family's political leanings are. So I think inadvertently, it has become a polarizing subject. So the materials that you bring into class need to be very, very well vetted. And I think it wasn't so much the concepts being introduced, because I think kids in grade 11 should have an understanding of media bias, to Teresa's point, but I think the actual execution needs a lot of revamping, especially in this current climate. And I'll leave it at that. And then,
That's just not true. Sorry, half the country's Republican, half the country is Democrat. I don't think that because you say you're a Republican, which I am, people think you're a racist. I think that's just ridiculous.
I don't disagree with you. I'm saying that seems to be sort of popular insinuation right now, which is why people are hesitant to necessarily talk about their political leaning. That's exactly my point. So,
well, obviously I have such hesitation, but I'll put myself back on mute.
I would argue then, Meg, that it actually should be discussed in the high school classroom when the stakes are low and you have an adult in the front of the classroom teaching the kids to speak respectfully to each other and understand that people look at the world differently. And it's a learning process, teaching them to understand how other people view the world and to not turn it into a bullying thing. I would rather see that happen in a high school classroom than at the college level, where the stakes are a lot higher for things to go wrong for them if they're not prepared for that kind of conversation.
A lot of good points have been raised here. I don't think we're going to solve this tonight, but I am glad that we were able to get the concerns out on the table. I think that part of the role of this committee is to bring the concerns of the community to the administration and the Board of Ed. And I think actually the Board of Ed and I think we've done that. So are there any other comments to make regarding the opening of school? It doesn't have to be about this particular subject, but
I do. I actually have one. I have one. I went sort of on a tangent and I should have known better, but I do have a question. After September 30th, when the governor no longer has emergency control, do we have a plan about what to do with masks, or is it status quo until some other variable enters?
Well, we're going to get some direction one way or the other, Meg. If it's not the case, then I would be surprised if it was given over to local control, local decision making. To be honest with you, just reading the tea leaves, I would be surprised about that. If that was the case, we would be talking to our local health officials in consultation with the board as to what we should do. But every indication is that there's going to be, actually most of the indication is that it will be extended in some nature or another. But that's just me speculating at this point. But if you were to ask me to speculate, that's what I would say.
Okay. Well, there's some news about a vaccine for younger kids today, so maybe that will be something that will be helpful in the long run.
And you should know that technically by September 23rd, the teachers should be all vaccinated by the 27th, even though the vast majority of them are. So.
All right. Any other questions or comments on this subject? Okay. All right. I think we can leave this item. Is there any other business? Anything that the committee would like to discuss at our next meeting in October? That would be something that, you can let me know of agenda items that are of interest to you for October. And other than that, I think we have no more business for tonight. I did want to leave an opportunity for public comment. I don't know if there are members of the public here who would like to comment. If there are, please raise your hand or speak up. Christian, do you see any hands, or is anybody signaling that they want to make a public comment?
Not that I'm seeing.
You don't see anybody?
Hey, Clara, just
Yeah.
just to wrap it up quickly on the board side, Board of Ed side, just thank you, everyone. Good dialogue as always. And, you know, the board continues to listen. Dr. Adley continues to listen. We appreciate all the feedback, all the calls and all the emails. Please continue to provide that to us. That's how we move this forward. You know, just to keep in mind, there are challenges throughout the year. We continue to be most times the #1 school district and high school in the state, usually in the top 100 in the country. We are doing a lot of things right. I said as we kicked off the school year, we're a district in motion. If you think of what we've been through over the last 18 months to almost 2 years, and that we're building a school, we're renovating schools, we're hiring principals and assistant principals, and we continue to invest in the education in this district. So, but the dialogue's important, and we'll keep it going, and we appreciate the partnership. So thank you for the opportunity tonight.
That's very gracious of you. Thanks to all of you and your colleagues. I think that passionate parents who scrutinize what's going on in their children's schools make for the best school district that we have here. So again, we're all happy to provide the input and the dialogue that we do. Thank you, Dr. Adley, for all the time you spent, and Mr. Rudel. We really appreciate that you go to a lot of meetings and you spent time with us this evening. Can we have a motion to? Can we have a motion to adjourn? It's 7:56. Let's see, Ann and somebody else. A second. Carolina. Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in October. Stay well. Good night.
Thanks, Clara.
Thank you.
Good night.
Clara, thank you so much. Everybody.